Hey, welcome to Worthy Mother podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the way that life is not linear. There's a journey that we go through when we are mothers, when we're living our lives, and there is a lot of room for growth and transformation in that journey. And when it comes to growth and transformation, it takes courage to stand in the face of the unknown, of the changes that can happen in our lives, and to step into our authentic selves and our authentic identities. Welcome to Worthy Mother Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Hardy, a mom of two on a mission to help moms everywhere feel less alone. This is not a parenting podcast. Instead, it's a space for pushing back against societal expectations of perfection and embracing self-compassion in your motherhood journey. Let's get into it. I'm really excited to have this conversation today with Stephanie Shanks. She is a portrait and headshot photographer dedicated to capturing authenticity and the power of being seen. She's also a podcast host. Her podcast is called Unwritten, and she believes that storytelling is one of the most powerful tools we have for healing ourselves and others. She's also a single mom of three boys. She brings that perspective of being a mother to her life and her work. Very happy to have you here, Stephanie. Can you go ahead and just tell us who you are? Tell us about Stephanie.
That's a broad question.
Whatever feels important.
Yeah. Well, I'm Stephanie Shanks. I live in Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is a very small little town. And my journey of motherhood began at 16 when I became a teen mom to twin boys. I had them at 26 to 28 weeks gestation. So they were 3 months premature and had health issues their entire life. And I have used all of the things that have made my life really hard, should have been knocked down a million times ago, to not only transform my own life, but transform other people's too. So my photography business is really all about helping people be seen how I see them, which is our struggles make us beautiful, our shame gives us strength. And, I'm having a hard time with that right now because I only get to see my clients for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So that's where the podcast comes in, where I get to help other women transform what they perceive as struggle into power.
It's such a complex idea when we're talking about, I mean, it really is like it's life. It is
Yeah.
life, the way that we all do go through struggles. We all do go through our own individual periods of transformation, and how that is what makes us unique. Like, as cheesy as that sounds, that is kind of the beauty of being an individual, is the things that you've been through, the things that you've overcome, who you are. And yet there can be so much shame and discomfort with accepting that and not fitting into some mold of what we think we're supposed to be or what we think we should want to be. And I think, I mean, there's so much in there.
Yeah, there really is. And, my perspective with taking photos of people, it's the things that are different about you that make you unique and make you more lovable. And I just want to share that with the world.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the beginning of your motherhood journey and kind of talk about that a little bit. Becoming a mother for any woman is hugely transformational, right? Like, it's a lot changes, but you had a particularly big, like just big entry into motherhood as somebody who had your first children at 16 and had
Yeah.
them premature with health issues. I'm sure that was like a lot. Reflecting back on all of that now, all these years later, what was that experience like for you?
It was traumatizing. And why that one fertilized egg decided to split into two. Like I have identical twins. Why that happened inside my body, it's just, it's crazy to think about. And then, I was in denial for a really long time. There was no way I thought I was pregnant because there's just no way. At 16, you're just like, this is not happening. I didn't think I would get pregnant. I didn't think I was pregnant. And I really just wanted my life to be normal as we do. I mean, we still do that, right? And so I was going on, I was gaining weight. And finally, one of my teachers told the guidance counselor who told my parents, hey, we need to get Stephanie checked out here. And I was pulled out of school. My mom took me to the doctor like that day. And doctor's like, yeah, you're pregnant. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, what can I do? What are my options here? They're like, well, we need to figure out how far along you are with this baby, and your blood pressure is high, and I was like, my body was like shutting down in that clinic room because of all the emotion that was kind of like trapped down was releasing. So I go to the hospital and I'm diagnosed with preeclampsia. I don't know if it's my liver or my something was like way off. And they give me an ultrasound to figure out how far along I am. And I didn't want to look at it. My mom was looking at it. I just had my eyes closed 'cause I just couldn't deal with it. And they're like, there's two heartbeats, there's two babies here. And it was just like, okay, I can't believe this is happening. And a week later, I had them. About the timing, because it was so traumatic, I don't remember the exact timeline, but yeah, they wheeled me in to see them, and I looked at them, and they were small, and they were red, and they were hooked up to all these things, and I still was like, "There's no way that that was inside me." And then there's two of them, so right from the realization that I was pregnant to seeing them all hooked up to all the things and bringing them home, and they had feeding tubes and they had heart monitors, and then finding out they had disabilities. My son has cerebral palsy, and the physical therapy and the occupational therapy. I mean, it was just like everything just kept adding up, and there just wasn't any time for me to really even feel it. So that's how I can describe that, almost like an outsider looking in. It was more of a disassociation for me.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Like, that's so much to happen in the timeline and just how huge of a transformation, again, that having kids and becoming a mom is anyway. Like, no matter how much somebody has prepared for that and is like, this is a decision I'm making and going through with then having a baby, it's a massive transformation. So to kind of be like very literally thrown into that role in the most real sense of, okay, there's two babies, they have extra needs. That's just a lot. And then you're also 16 and navigating your own self and your own identity and being that person.
Yeah, I was just beginning to figure out my own identity at 16.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said just about how we all do enter into motherhood differently, and it looks so different to any woman becoming a mom, and how even still we're able to show up in our lives and be the best mom for our children that they need. At different times, maybe that looks different, but like showing up for yourself, being able to grow your own business and have this like incredible mission and message and all the things. When you really look at the individual stories of individuals, what kind of leads people along in their stories, in their journeys, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, so much that comes from like the background. And I think just like acknowledging that and taking the space to recognize that that's true of every person out there
Yeah.
is beautiful. And I know that that obviously is like a huge part of the work that you do is kind of exposing that and like letting that shine, which it makes sense. It's really powerful, really beautiful.
Yeah.
In your life, you've gone through a lot. You've had a lot of personal growth in there too. What has that journey looked like since becoming a mom?
Yeah. So in my 20s is when I first started understanding that change and growth is possible.
Hmm.
And there's a book by, I think it's Eckhart Tolle, but I started realizing that there's more to the world than what is right here. And there was always a part of me that knew that no matter how hard my life looked at the moment, that things were going to be better for me. And I didn't know how or why. In my 20s, I was in a marriage, a terrible marriage with a guy who was abusive. He was a drug addict. He was cheating on me all the time. He was spending all of our money because that's what drugs are expensive. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought he was going out to Burger King too often because he would tell me like, "Oh, I'm not this person." And I was in such a hurry to create this perfect little family life that I overlooked everything and was just trying to hold stuff together. And there was just a point where I was reading like Dr. Phil books. It was just like, even though my circumstances looked terrible and hard, and they were, there was part of me that was just dreaming of a bigger life and a better life. And I've never stopped dreaming or personal growth. I haven't stopped learning about myself and healing myself. And yeah, change is possible.
It's like the power of the dream. I'd love to like get into that a little bit more of like what that kind of hope, I guess, like having a vision for yourself, having the desire for something more and believing that that's possible, even when you can't see what that would look like. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's such a part of me that I think it's because I've had such a creative mind. When I talk about when I was 16, finding myself, I had just gotten into art. And in my 20s, I reconnected with photography again. There was just another world
Mhm.
that I was connecting with. And I can't describe how I was connecting with it at that point. Now it's through meditation and journaling. I started journaling when I was 16. And there's just something magic about creating. And I feel like that creation that I inherently have helped me create this dream of a different life. And what's crazy is that when I journal about things that I want to happen, they happen. They don't happen overnight. They don't happen how I exactly think they're going to happen, but they do happen. My first husband, I was so dedicated to that marriage. I never would have left that marriage. I would have died in that marriage had I had the choice, but he actually left me. And him leaving me opened up my world again and gave me some hope and some peace. And it's just the journey of just having something that I don't have now, but something that I want and making those connections happen. And I don't know even know if that makes sense, but that's where it's all at.
It's funny. I was having a conversation with a friend last night, like literally 14 hours ago, about that, just about like the manifesting in your life by putting it out there, like expressing what it is that you desire and deserve, really,
Yeah.
in life and how good things can come from that. I think there's also something I'm really interested in exploring in my own life and then talking about, having conversations about how this works is just the power of creativity and self-expression in our own journeys, our own, I guess, like becoming of who we are and who we're meant to be. We're always becoming that different new version of ourselves, no matter whether you're trying to grow or not, right? Like it's just life happens, we're transforming. But how when we're intentional about expressing ourselves, whether that's through journaling or painting or photography or just whatever it is, right? Just getting that expression out can be so powerful in then helping us along that journey and connecting that then to the dreams, connecting that to the more that's out there for us. It's like it makes so much sense. And I don't know that we all prioritize that space for the self-expression, that space for the really exploring what it is that you do want and deserve in your life. And when you're able to do that, it becomes more clear then what the path looks like and what you do deserve.
Yeah. Something I've had to overcome is self-worth and feeling
Mhm.
worthy of a life. As I'm 43 now, so I became a mom 26 years ago. I've been a mom more in my life than I've been not. And it- there's something about, as moms, we put everybody else in front of our own needs and our wants and our desires because we want more for our children. We want to give our children more than what we have.
Mhm.
But what I've discovered is that, to be honest, we have to want that for ourselves first and then be that model, that mirror for our children. If we want our children to have a better life than we have to put ourselves first and we have to get through all that crap of I'm not good enough, I'm too fat, I'm too this, all of the things that as women we process in our brains like nonstop. We have to figure out a way to stop that and transform it into worthiness, self-love, like your coaching,
Yeah.
and be the light for our children. That's the only way.
Yeah, I mean, the name of this podcast is Worthy Mother, right? It's like all
Hmm.
about understanding that whether you can see it and embrace it or not, we're all worthy of all the things, all the good things. And particularly those things that we look at our children and believe so wholeheartedly that they deserve, and we want them to have just all the opportunity and whatever it is that we want for them, knowing that like we are worthy of that as well. And that comes from like this deep, deep place. And yet sometimes, well, yeah, often acknowledging that and being able to really like embody that self-worth, to be able to say, I am worthy, it's a whole other struggle. And we really do then just pass on that struggle to our kids if we're not working on that and learning to value ourselves, learning that we do have worth, because that is what we're showing our children. They are watching, they always are watching.
Yeah.
So, as somebody who has had so many transformational periods that are very like concrete periods of change, right? Like
Yeah.
having children at 16, huge period of change, going through a divorce, having a special needs child and navigating that. How have you, and I'm sure this is a journey and you've kind of spoken to that, but how have you remained true to yourself in those periods or gotten back to that sense of identity and being secure in who you are?
Well, so we'll just take a little trip back in time again, and I think it'll all make sense. So, after my first marriage, I jumped into another marriage because,
Mhm.
again, I was so wanting to create this life for my children of security, but I didn't know how that worked. Yeah, I thought it was an outside thing. So I became a wife and I had four stepkids and it was insane. So now there's seven kids. Now I have my son with a disability. I have a new husband. I have an ex-husband. I have this woman that hates me because I married her ex-husband. And I became a caretaker for everybody because I wanted that. I wanted everybody to get along. I wanted everybody to like me. So I became the grocery person. I became the cleaning up person. I became the person that would pick up kids when they were sick. And I lost myself completely. I don't even know if at this point, I don't even know if I'd found myself. I had started my photography business by then, and I had specific things that I wanted to accomplish within that, mainly being a good mom and being available after school and that sort of thing. But it wasn't until the end of the second marriage, Christmas time, which is like my favorite time, as most moms, like all the kids were coming home, it was going to be great, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was so sad. I was sick. I had migraines. I had this crazy asthma that I was on this medication twice a day just to try to breathe. And I knew that I had to get out of that marriage and find out who I am without trying to please everybody around me. It had to be so painful that I finally broke free from that cycle of trying to find myself in the joy of others. Like, how can I be of service to you and you and you and you? I thought that that was who I was, but it's not. So that's how I really learned who I was I was able to leave that marriage, leave a huge house, leave a standing in the community, leave nice cars, nice businesses. I left it all so that I could find out who I was and find my happiness for my kids and my stepkids too. Like we all have a better relationship now that I know who I am.
Yeah, we talk a lot on this podcast about the myth of this ideal life, this ideal motherhood, what that's supposed to look like. And it's one of those things that whether we explicitly take that in and believe, like, okay, this is what I think it's going to look like when I'm a mom and my family is going to function this way, or sometimes it's more like subconscious, like we just believe that that is the goal and don't necessarily make the decisions to get there like that, but it's like you're always holding yourself to that standard of the TV family. And it never looks like that, it never actually feels like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it can kind of trap us in comfort and trap us in like this, even like this facade of comfort, because it might not be actually comfortable, but it feels like this is what I'm supposed to have. And if I can
Yeah.
match the image of that, then I must be doing something right. And if it doesn't feel right, there might be something else wrong.
Yeah.
It's not
It's something
the
wrong with me, not.
exactly. And I think that piece of like it got so uncomfortable
Yeah.
being in that facade of comfort
Yeah.
that like it was I don't easier is not even the right word, but it was like you were forced to stop that and say this doesn't work. And I think unfortunately that's something that I think a lot of women do get to points like that in life where it's like, hold up, this whole life that I've built that I thought I wanted to build because I had it in my mind, this is what it was supposed to look like. That's not actually like the right option for you and your family.
Right.
And it really is that it's those external forces that, again, we may not even realize we've taken in to believe what it's supposed to look like that do influence those decisions we make along the way to get us into those positions. And
Yeah.
it's like no matter when that happens, no matter when you're able to say, actually, there's something better for me out there. This isn't it. What an amazing, beautiful thing that then you're able to step out of that and put yourself first, put your own well-being ahead of this image. And like what a gift to your children and your stepchildren and the people who love you.
Yeah. And again, it kind of goes back. We get to create our own life. And
Uh-huh.
I created the Victorian home with the wraparound porch. I created, being that mom that gets
Yeah.
to be there for her kids because I didn't have that. But I wasn't creating it out of a wholeness. I was creating it out of lack and scarcity. And I think that's the difference where the last 3 years have been I'm creating a life out of wholeness. How can I make my life more richer than it already is? Because it's amazing.
What does that look like?
For me, it's just mindset. So, I had to learn how to wake up in the morning and feel good. So I get to wake up in a bed and I say, I just looked over at my bed. um, I love my bed. I could stay here forever because I am so comfortable in my bed. I love my pillows. It's just that initial thoughts in the morning of love, gratitude, and instead of, oh my God, how are we going to pay this? Oh, my life is over. I can't believe you said that. It's just complete change of mindset for me is the biggest change. And surrounding myself with people that love and support me and letting go of the people that don't. And there's been a lot of hard lessons in all of this, but knowing what feels good, who feels good is so important. So knowing who I am and what I need.
Yeah. What advice would you have to a mom who is in a period of transformation and there might be a lot of unknown? I mean, I'll say for me, something that by the time this episode comes out, I will have talked about on the podcast. I'm going through a divorce right now and
I'm sorry.
very supported, very well, like, I feel like I have my people, I have the help and support that I need, which
Hmm.
is incredible. And I feel very hopeful and all of that. But it is like this thing of like you're standing on the edge of something completely unknown. And I know there's a lot of situations that moms can be in where that's true. What would you say to them? To me?
I would tell you that it's scary as hell because you don't know what's on the other side. But what's on the other side, I get teared up because I was in that position and it was so scary. And I stayed small for so long, just trying to be that person that I thought I should be. That on the other side, it's beautiful. It happens way quicker than you ever can imagine once you get in your own space and you start to heal. And you already interviewing women that are awesome, you know that what's on the other side is going to be better for you because you've witnessed it in your storytelling and the people you've helped and the people you've had on your podcast. So for me, it was listening to podcasts. I needed to know what was on the other side, that I was making the right choice. And it's just living on your own terms after trying to create something that isn't you is amazing. You have no idea.
I know it really is one of those things that you have no idea of it all. It's like
Yeah.
I'm grappling with that and I'm trying to do it in a way of like that's also exciting, but it also the reality is it's also scary, not knowing what that's going to look like, right? Like, even if it's
Mhm.
like, I know the future is so beautiful and bright, and I have no clue what that looks like. And it's a weird thing to process and like hold on to that. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate having these conversations.
Yeah. And this brings up just another thing I think is super important is that we were taught as young girls that there's like this Prince Charming and that we have to give our whole life to somebody else. And that's, you can't give your whole life to somebody else and expect to have happiness. Happiness comes from giving yourself everything you need. And if you, when the time comes, and it will, when you meet somebody and they're whole in themselves and they don't require you to change who you are, then you know. But it's really that Prince Charming bullshit. Sorry, you can take that out.
No,
Is it's
keep it
super
in.
it's super harmful and detrimental not only to ourselves but our daughters and our sons. That sons, men shouldn't have to feel like they have to come rescue somebody or take care of somebody. We are totally capable of taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. It all plays back to separating ourselves from those cultural messages that are so deeply ingrained in many of us as individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Find someone that fits in your life. Don't go try to fit in somebody else's.
Yeah. I mean, it really is like, it's exciting. And it is exciting, I think, for anybody in any point of their life when you can really imagine the future as like an open space and you have all the capability to explore that you want. Like, whatever it is, whatever situation, whether you're going through a huge transformation or not,
Hmm.
instead of kind of trapping ourselves in just the way things are and the way things always will be, there really
Yeah.
is opportunity for whatever you want to explore, whatever you want to do and grow into. You just have to
Yeah.
make that choice and have the courage to get out of the comfort zone, the what feels like it should be stuff.
Yeah. And if not, and again, not for yourself, do it for your kids, but you have to do it for you
Yeah,
first. Whatever,
100%.
however you get there, you just need to start.
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation.
Me too.
It's so powerful, and I just love your message of the importance of storytelling, the importance of being vulnerable, being authentic, sharing our stories, because I think when we come together to do that, it just elevates us all, right? It gives us the
Yeah.
space to say, like, this is life, this is the human condition. It's a journey, and there's no shame in that. And we can feel a lot of shame around it when we're not having the conversations.
Exactly. Yeah. And once you start telling your story, the shame goes away.
Just
It
melts
can't,
off.
it doesn't exist in light. It
Yeah,
only exists in the darkness.
100%. Something that I really love asking guests on this show at the end of each episode is about self-care, caring for ourselves. I know that that is something, there's a lot of conversations about self-care out there, but I do really feel like it's important for moms to recognize the importance of putting our own needs first, taking care of ourselves. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes seeing how others do that can be really helpful. So I'm hoping you can share with us how you care for yourself and what advice you might have for other moms, just to make sure that's happening regularly.
Yeah. You're gonna hate me, but since June, I cut out all sugar, carbs, all that stuff. And I can't tell you like what it's done for my mindset. It's like, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a dietitian, but there's something about sugar that just messes with my brain and my thoughts. So taking out all the crap that you're eating, it just helps. It helps wake up. It helps you think of new ideas and create. And I know everyone's like, that I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. And it is boring, but I'm okay with boring. Meditation is super important to me and walking the dog. So I walk the dog twice a day. And I also love going to the coffee shop, even if I don't talk to anybody other than the barista, just to get out and be around people. So that's my self-care. I'm not a big worker outer. I try, I pretend sometimes, but that's it.
It's the little things. I don't even know if little things is the right way to say that, but the things that you explore how you feel best showing up in life. And if that's
Exactly.
cutting out the
Yeah.
sugar and it makes a huge
Yeah.
difference, how incredible to then like know
Yeah.
what a huge difference that makes in your life.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us and just all of the little tidbits of greatness in this. Where can listeners find out more about you?
So I'm pretty active on Facebook, which right now is Steph Shanks Photography, and stephshanks.com is my website. And that's probably the best place to contact me and see what I'm up to. But I'm on all the socials as well.
Amazing. And your podcast, where can we find your podcast?
It's on Spotify and YouTube, and it's called Unwritten.
Amazing. We'll have all of that linked in the show notes too. But yeah, really incredible, awesome stuff that you're doing. And I don't know, your message and your story, the way that you share so vulnerably and are creating space for others to do that as well is very much appreciated by somebody who really knows the value of doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say same right back at you.
Thank you so much to everybody tuning in. I hope that there's little tidbits of goodness that you've taken away from this episode as well. It's a conversation that I'm really happy to have had happen. Thank you for listening. You are worthy, Mama.